Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder, and today, our first segment, we have Joel, a listener from East Orange, New Jersey, and he called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. He asked about caring for outdoor plants he brought indoors. Hear all about it in our first segment. You know, and over the next few weeks, we're going to be examining gardening trends for 2025. Living Fences is up on this segment, number 2, and it's not a new trend. It's an old trend, but it's certainly been underused. I'm so tired of arborvitae. Are you? I am. Hear all about it, our second segment. Our friend Harold Kozak of Staten Island called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline, and he asked if he needed a fruit and vegetable spray wash on his organic vegetables. Hear all about it in our third segment. Edimentals is a trend from last year that partners with a 2025 trend called Foraging. Hear what that is during our fourth segment. And in our final segment, Professor Steve called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline wishing Julio well while languishing in warm weather. Hear his call in our final segment. So stay tuned. We'll be back in the garden right after this.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, Joel called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline, and he asked about caring for plants that he brought inside. Here, listen to his call.
This is Joel. I potted some sprouting daffodil bulbs about 3 weeks ago. They're now 14 inches tall and full of buds. Question is, should I add anything to the soil now to ensure that it will produce more bulbs that I can again store and plant for next year? Right now they're in very fluffy composted soil that I composted myself, so I know it's good. Next question, I have a pot of celosia which I transplanted into a larger pot early in the summer. It did great. I had always planned to take it indoors, which is why I left it in the pot. And after thriving indoors until a couple of weeks ago, which was the end of the year, it started looking very bad. Leaves turning brown and crisp, and the blooms fading. Did I overwater or underwater it? It looks irretrievable. But will it spring back from roots if I care for them in any way? Thank you. Hope to hear from you. Bye.
Well, I talked to Joel. He's quite a gardener. He hits compost. I'll tell you what, I'd like to bag it and sell it because he bags just about, everything. He said, I put everything in there but sour milk. So, first of all, celotias. I was telling him how we had some fall celotias left over and brought them into the greenhouse and that they just didn't look good. And we have to have it so that it's inspirational. So it's like, we got to dump them. It's too late. But I know what's going on is with Joe's celotia that they require light and that we naturally have less light this time of the year. And just like he was saying, how the time when he brought them in and it was right before Christmas and it's right when we had the shortest daylight, and that Sam had to find the Here Comes the Sun thing again, where every day since December 22nd, we're getting more and more light, but it may be too late for those celotia. I told him if the foliage is still viable, that he can try to water them. And as long as that water dries out and that there's transpiration, which is the moisture or the water is leaving the leaf surface, that means things are happening. If it stays wet and it just is drenched for days and days and days and days, it's probably the roots are rotting, and he would be better off if he just let it go dry, let it go dormant, and see what happens in the spring. It's getting every day. It's a little bit closer. I even suggested maybe moving them outdoors during nice days when we get towards April, because they don't like a frost. Like, they're really sensitive to a freeze. So celotia are tough. They let you know if you let them out too long during cold weather. Now, as far as the bulbs that he was talking about, when we spoke, that they are paper whites. Paper whites can naturally go outside. And the beautiful thing about paper whites is that everything that's in that bulb for it to bloom is all there. You don't need to do anything special. But, and I tried to explain it like a visual. If you think of a fountain where it shoots straight up and then the fountain shuts down and it goes back down, think of that as the energy from that bulb. It shoots all that energy up, forms the stem, forms the buds, forms the flowers. And then when the flowers are pollinated and done, it goes back down into the bulb. But what really is happening underneath the ground, like, first of all, the foliage is going to get yellow and it's going to look like it's dying, but it really isn't. It's going back to dormancy, and that bulb generally will split. And what he should do is put a little bit of espoma bulb tone in that pot so that as the roots are growing, that it makes those and they call them bulblets, that they will be stronger and that they'll be able to bloom again the following year. I think you should plant them outside, and you can plant them outside even when it's cold. So if April would be fine, March is probably a little early because he's kept them inside. But if he puts them out in the ground, that they'll naturally bloom the following spring. So they would probably start blooming in March, April naturally. So plant them in the ground. They'll be fine. Sounds like he's doing a great job with his bulbs. Everything sounds really pretty good. And for him to take the challenge of celotia on, that's pretty good. But again, it's plant those bulbs outside in April. They're not going to reflower because they already did it inside. You're tricking them into thinking that it's springtime. and that you're going to have to wait a year for them to bloom again. But there are other things that are, you'll just never know they're there. So, in any case, the celosia, that's a tough one. He's going to have to decide whether sometimes it's just not worth it. And as we say on the show, they're plants, not puppies. So sometimes it's just better trash them and get rid of them, because I can see it now. I can see them staying wet and getting fungus gnats all over the place and actually being a detriment to others' plants. And Joel said he has a long table, and all I'm thinking is he's describing this table, how it cuts off a room where he has that open concept room, but now it's cut off in half because he has a table full of house plants. But Joel is definitely a good gardener for sure. All right, we're going to be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Espoma Indoor Houseplant Food is the ultimate all-purpose plant food for growing bigger houseplants with healthy green foliage and beautiful blooms. Its rich blend of natural proteins enhanced with kelp extracts, humic acid, and Espoma's proprietary set of beneficial microbes. And because it's made in Espoma's state-of-the-art, solar-powered manufacturing facility, its quality is guaranteed. Espoma liquid houseplant food is ideal for pothos, palms, fiddle-leaf figs, monstera, and more. Just add half a cap in a quart of water and use every 2 to 4 weeks. An 8-ounce bottle makes up to 24 quarts. Feeds instantly and adds beneficial microbes. 100% natural and organic, safe for people, pets, and the planet. Visit your local independent garden center and select from Espoma's entire line of Espoma liquid plant foods: cactus food, orchid food, African violet food, tomato food, super bloom booster, and more.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks, Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. We were talking about getting stuff in our eye.
Thank you, Len.
Couldn't see for a little bit.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Old trick. Honestly, I don't know where I learned it, but
old wives' tale trick there.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Anyway, Aaron now can see, which is good. But you know, we're talking about garden trends every year. There's new gardening trends, but when you've been around as long as I have, a lot of the new trends are actually old trends, maybe with a different name. And this year in the trend report from Garden Media Group, it predicts living hedges as a trend for 2025. And it states, think beyond their traditional hedge. And what they're talking about, it's like instead of doing a row of emerald green arborvitae or even, say, some of the green giant arborvitae, or just something where it's just a monoculture. That means the same type of plant. That you do a mix, like a diverse hedge. I love that. I love that idea. But generally, you've got to consider that if you're using different types of plants, like you've got tall plants in the back that are going to block off your neighbors. And look, I live right behind me is a 55 and older community that, I lived there before it was there. So I want my privacy back. And so I have a mixed hedge. And honestly, it's been there for a very long time, and it's starting to get a little old, and I need to replant it. So that's part of the fun part, where it's a mixture of different plants, where I have some at this point that are like 40 feet tall, and that you decide on the plants that you want, and you make it a diverse mix so that you have color, texture, and form, rather than just one, like a bunch of soldiers standing in front of a fence or a fence. What's great in this report is that there was a pricing structure on what it costs to put in a privacy fence. So, if you're doing one of those PVC fences, it's basically about $50 a foot. And for a 50-foot fence, it's going to be $2,500. Now, they say that for 50 foot, you could do it for $300 to $500. I think you better budget for closer to $1,000, but you're going to get so much more from it. You'll get different flowering plants throughout the year. You'll have, again, you can mix in some things, and unfortunately, is part of the reason why my hedge is basically knocked down is because the people from Bloomers come over, Carl, and they take my magnolia and they take my holly. And now all of a sudden, instead of them being all the way down to the ground, now they're limbed up. So if you're if you don't own a garden center and you're not going to take your own greens, that you'll be able to have that and it'll stay nice. Things like Nellie Stevens holly, Deodar cedar, whether it's golden Deodar cedar or it's divinely blue Deodar cedar, which I just planted, and it's actually very beautiful. Blue spruce. Different types of, like Norway spruce, which is dark green. You could go with something, even Douglas fir. And different textures, they just make it more natural. And it not only works well just visually and aesthetically, but it also for the wildlife. Virginia Tech had recently done a study, and a well-landscaped home enjoys a 12.7% increase in property value. And that translates into a significant financial advantage, an additional $38,000 on a $300,000 property. That sounds good to me. That, as the economy changes and housing starts to come back on the market, as interest rates show, that it's going to be competitive to sell your house for more, because the pricing of housing may not necessarily come down, but it's not going to go up at the speed that it has been. And definitely landscaping is something that will help with that. It's also a way to get around the HOA rules. I mean, the homeowners associations found that there was a study that in 2022, 84% of the newly built single-family homes were part of an HOA. We hear nightmare stories. People where it's people with a little bit of power, and that where you can get around some of those rules, and you can by doing this. I mean, if you're going to put in just one straight hedge, you've got to get it approved. But if it's going to be a mixed border, I mean, it will beautify the neighborhood, and that the HOA will look fondly upon what you're doing. So what am I talking about? You're going to be putting in a mixture of broadleaf evergreens, conifers, flowering, preferably evergreens, from rhododendrons to different types of like cherry laurel. You're going to be putting in, like we mentioned, evergreens or conifers before, where you're going to put spruces and you're going to do cedars, things like that. But you're also going to be putting in some things like viburnum, and you can put in roses. And you're thinking about this along the back edge of your taller things. You're basically go tall, medium, and then short. And that you can always be adding to that border so it favors you. So you can put in a perennial garden in that border and in that mix. You can do a cutting garden so that you can always be cutting fresh flowers. But again, it's a living fence, not just a fence. I live in the land of suburbia, and there are so many fences, neighbor to neighbor to neighbor to neighbor to neighbor to neighbor. It just is a run-on, and that to try to soften it, sometimes they'll put arborvitae in front of it, but that's not good enough. The only downfall is it's going to be wide. So if you put in just a regular old arborvitae, say, but again, if you have deer, this is an issue, that if you're going to put in emerald green arborvitae, deer are going to eat it. They're going to make it poodles, just like my magnolia from Bloomers coming to Truman. And it's that because they'll eat up to 6 foot. They'll go on their hind legs and eat. And that if you're using what they won't eat, is green giant arborvitae, or my favorite is American pillar. And American pillar was made because they're not that wide. So you're going to 6 feet, your bed's going to need to be at least 6 foot wide, maybe a little bit bigger. But when you're doing the type of living fence that we're talking about, it's going to be about 15 foot wide because it's going to be a mixture of different things. Like you can put a golden deodar cedar that will get to be 35, 40 foot tall, but it'll also be about 20 foot wide. You can also add in a Japanese bloodgood maple, where that's going to get to be about 15 foot wide. But again, you're going to have a golden deodar cedar that's going to have golden highlights on a green, almost conifer plant, and where next to that, you'll have a dark red leafed maple. Then next to that, you'll have a Nellie Stevens holly that is a lustrous, dark, almost blue-green leaf. Next to that, a blue spruce, as opposed to having the military soldier look, to where it becomes monotonous, and it's better than nothing, but it certainly is not going to be, when they grow and they decide to grow and that you have them in front of a fence or something more like that they're going to die out where they're touching the fence. So you're going to need room. You're going to need room, but boy, it will be beautiful. And what are you making room for? Your lawn? I'm thinking more and more, getting rid of less lawn, less to cut, less to fertilize, less to have to treat for insects and diseases. Who needs it? But it does look pretty. Again, it's color, texture, form, and making a living fence. Because the one thing that I haven't mentioned, those of you that have bird feeders and observe your bird feeders will know that there are some birds that, even though you see them, it's almost like they like to creep up on your feeder. They don't fly in, land on your feeder and say, okay, I'm eating. Some varieties do. But like cardinals like sneak up on your feeder, and they kind of go from like, say, a hedge, or right now I put my Christmas tree by my feeder so the cardinals can land into my old Christmas tree and then jump from the Christmas tree right up to the feeder and eat, because that's what they do. So you're creating an environmental situation where wildlife can live in that area, and especially birds. You can choose to put bearing plants, like, again, viburnums. And in the segment coming up, we're going to talk about foraging, and we're going to talk about plants that will work in the landscape that are edible. There's all types of things that you can do rather than just do emerald green arborvitae, 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 right?
You know what I'm thinking about putting out to complement my living hedge that I have right now? I'm thinking about putting Gaultheria underneath it.
Wow.
Just to kind of give a nice little ground coverage.
Right.
Because right now it's just mulch.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Like that Gaultheria, Aaron throwing around botanical names.
All right. Nick Plant.
Yeah.
Hey, go Knicks.
or bearberry.
Yeah.
Is a ground cover, but gets a big berry.
Right.
That is a great plant, respects its borders, not like English ivy. It's not going to grow up trees and things like that, but is a great ground cover. That's a great idea.
And with Joel from North Jersey, right, he knows all about the ivy everywhere up there, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From our previous caller.
Oh, yeah. It's ivy, English ivy has gotten on a lot of lists that are invasive species lists.
It's gotten on my nerves.
Yeah, I can understand that. And Pachysandra, but Pachysandra doesn't get a berry.
True.
It gets that little white flower that nobody pays attention to.
Right.
But again, there are things you can do, and that you can do that same thing in that living hedge where you have a little bump out of ground cover, and that could be herbs or it could be all types of things. Again, think living fence rather than I had a dog, very big, happy, just yellow lab, and we had an electric fence. I don't want to hear it. It works, okay? He never got trapped in it. It never shocked him to death. He just respected that border as if there was, a fence there forever. But that, if you have a pet that you want to keep contained, you can have an electric fence that would not even hurt the vista that you see from your house, where you, instead of seeing a background of this white fence or whatever fence you choose, you have a natural environment that basically blocks off your neighbors.
For my backyard, I put chicken wire behind.
Yeah?
Yeah, even though you can, if you get close to it, you can see the chicken wire, but it's behind the hedge, so it's on my neighbor's side.
Yeah, it's funny. That's something Joel said. He said, did you know that, because you're from the Oranges,
Yep,
that they are allowed to have up to six chickens?
Yeah, and there's people in my old neighborhood that actually had chickens. Yeah. I don't know about the roosters.
Shut that chicken off. Anyway.
Yeah, especially down by the butcher shop. You hear it all the time.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go to break, and we'll be in the garden with Harold Kozak right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. We are proud to announce that Bloomers in the Garden has partnered with Renewal by Andersen of Greater Philadelphia, Delaware, South Jersey, and Southern Maryland. Renewal by Andersen is the top window and door company in the United States, specializing in replacement windows and doors. You might be thinking right now, what the heck do windows have to do with gardening? Well, Renewal by Andersen makes this beautiful garden bay window that's energy efficient and made from recycled materials. It's perfect for growing the finest indoor plants possible. When you are looking out your windows filled with plants in your beautiful garden, you don't want to see old windows that are cloudy, warped, or even rotting. That's why people in the horticulture community love Renewal by Andersen. Not only do we want our gardens to be beautiful, but their homes as well. Renewal by Andersen participates in horticultural events such as flower shows, earth days, and eco fairs. To get more information and set up a free home consultation, please visit www.philadelphiawindow.com and be sure to tell them Bloomers in the Garden sent you.
Is she gone?
Nope, she's still standing there.
What is she doing?
I think she's watching the grass grow.
That's our job.
I know, right? She's watching the grass grow, the flowers grow. Ooh, look, the trees are growing.
Can't say as I blame her. Remember where she bought all this stuff.
Duh, bought us there too.
Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Find us online at bloomers.com.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, by the way, Renewal by Andersen will be at the Philadelphia Flower Show. So if you're going to the flower show, make sure you stop by and you let them know that you listen to Bloomers in the Garden. They would appreciate hearing that, and so would I. Harold Kozak. Harold is probably one of our oldest listeners from Staten Island, and he called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline, and he complimented our organic show from January 4th. If you go on your podcast provider, or you can go on YouTube, go back to our show from January 4th, and it talks all about how we expect the trends for organic gardening to really strengthen over the next 4 years. But Harold targeted on something that I've been thinking about. So here, listen to his call.
Hey, this is Harold Kozak from Staten Island. First of all, I want to commend you for that great show you did today on organic gardening. My question is this. I've been buying organic vegetables from the supermarket for many years. And how important is it to wash those vegetables off even though they're labeled organic? And my other question is, I've noticed that some advertisements on TV advertise this vegetable wash. Is it necessary to use that on organic vegetables? And if so, can we buy that? Do you recommend buying that, or do you think there's a simple solution we can make at home just for washing off these vegetables? Thanks again, Len, and say hello to Julio. See you in the garden. Bye-bye.
Harold, I've seen the same commercial. They're spraying all their, the product I think is by Clean Boss, and it's called Eat Cleaner. And this is what they say. They said it's the world's only patented lab-proven all-natural fruit and vegetable wash, verified by extensive third-party testing to remove pesticide, chemicals, wax. Now everybody pay attention, wax, and dirt. Lab-proven remedy up to 99.9% of harmful residues, and that it will also deter future growth of yeast and mold. Extends the freshness of your fruits and vegetables up to 5 times longer. Removes natural wax. That's the thing. You know, I'm watching the commercial. I'm saying, yeah, and I've said on this show, I said, like, I don't where my vegetables come from Peru. I don't know what they're spraying it with. Do they have the same rules as that we do in the U.S.? Who knows? What's residuals on there? Until they sprayed the broccoli. It went from the broccoli being nice and fresh and water beating up on it to where it penetrated all the way through the broccoli. And I'm thinking to myself, I want to eat the broccoli. I don't want to eat the stuff that they're spraying on there. It has I went through the ingredients and I took a look at what it had in it. And let's see, it's decyl glycoside, and that it's a surfactant. Now, we have recommended on the show surfactants to mix with your herbicides and your pesticides because it's something where it breaks the tension of the water and makes it penetrate better. So you get better coverage as far as from the perspective of an insecticide, that you get better coverage and it doesn't basically wash off, bounce off if it's hitting the plant. Now, this cleaner is doing the same thing. Now, all of the items that they list is like citric acid, sodium citrate, salt, all of the things that they're talking about are all organic, glycerin, but that one compound is also used in, it's safe things, like it's found in baby shampoo and other things. But plants naturally have a waxy coating. Like, for instance, when you look at a blue spruce and you see, wow, look how blue it is. It's blue because the needles have a waxy coating that make it blue. You break that waxy coating and all of a sudden it looks gray. Have you ever seen like water beat up on plants? There's a lot of plants that it will do that on, mostly in cold crops. It's that waxy coating on the leaves where it just forms like beads of water on them, and it's something that naturally occurs. I don't know if I want that waxy coating removed. Blueberries, if you look at blueberries, sometimes it looks, oh my gosh, look at all the pesticide residue. That's not all pesticide residue. They have a waxy coating on the blueberries. Here's what I suggest. If you have organic vegetables, and fruit, make sure you rinse it real well. And keep in mind, when you're buying organic, it may not look as good as the inorganic vegetables and fruit because they've been sprayed to look the best. I mean, apples that haven't been sprayed, I don't know. They probably, they're not going to look good. They're not going to look good. So spraying it in inorganic, I would say, okay. But here's the thing. Aaron, have you ever washed strawberries?
Yes, I have.
And then all of a sudden you find that the strawberries that you put in your thing, they're all runny.
Yeah.
And they're all, it's that waxy
kind of like
coating.
mushy kind of.
Yeah, they get mushy real fast. So
absolutely.
I think it's something that I'm not necessarily here to endorse or not endorse a product, but I know that, I don't know, I know it's something that I would consider, but not on organic. Not on organic, certified organic vegetables and fruit. You don't need to. You just need to. You're basically knocking the dust off.
Right.
And that's all you're doing. But
rule of thumb in my house, we wash everything, regardless.
Well, I mean, certainly wash, but you're not going to spray
but not spray it,
with this,
right.
like Clean Boss stuff.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm curious of what, if anybody out there in Bloomers Nation has any experience with it. I'd be curious of what you think. I wish they could put labels on produce. The labels on insecticides, for instance, say you can spray up to 3 days of harvest. If there was a way that we could have fruits and vegetables said this was sprayed, the last spray date for this was June 3rd, or June, so that you knew like how long it's been since it's been sprayed. I don't know. Somehow, reverse engineering the date of harvest thing so that it's actually on fruits and vegetables. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see that.
If any of our listeners have any connections with the Food and Drug Administration,
that's right.
Feel free to call the Bloomers in the Garden hotline.
609-685-1880.
Correct.
But again, the spray itself is harmless. It does not seem to be anything that would be wrong, but it's just that some of your vegetables, like that broccoli that they spray and strawberries, some of them they may not behave the way that you're hoping to. So anyway, but I also want to say congratulations, Harold's son, Andrew Kozak. Andrew Kozak is the CBS 3 Philadelphia meteorologist, but he's made the big time. You now can see Andrew, anybody across the country. He is now nationwide, and he delivers the weekend weather coverage on CBS Weekend News. That is awesome. Andrew, congratulations. Congratulations. That's all. Harold, you must be so proud. Must be so proud.
I keep missing him every time he comes into the store. I missed him the last 2 times he was there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You'll be able to see Andrew every weekend. Every weekend.
Congratulations
every
for
weekend.
Sure.
All right. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best looking plants in the neighborhood.
Here's the dirt on potting mixes. They're not all created equal. Espoma Organic Potting Mix gives roots the ideal balance of air and moisture. It contains a special blend of beneficial mycorrhiza to help grow stronger roots, bigger plants, and more bountiful blooms. Try Espoma Organic Potting Mix indoors and out for all your potted flowers, vegetables, and you'll see why it's the best. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you. Organic potting mix from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. You know, some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Organic Potting Soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. Hey, welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Well, you've heard Aaron. We've got Aaron. Sam is back behind the glass. He's
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Sam's hit also the big time on MMR.
Yeah, that's right. I've been helping out with the morning show over there. Very grateful for the opportunity. But, you know, they say you can't ever go home. It looks like you can. So
yeah. I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you're home. So in our next segment, we're talking about, ready? Edimentals. Plants that are both edible and ornamental that are used in the garden and landscape. I think this is a great idea. I think the name stinks, but I think it's a great idea. And, well, it was coined by a writer, Stephen Barstow of Norway. And that, so they're, think of like blueberries, for instance. Blueberries, there's a whole different type of blueberry that's available now from Bushel and Berry, which is from Star Plants. And that yes, the rose people, that they're just dwarf. And I love the jelly bean variety where it looks, you could replace a boxwood hedge. Instead of having a boxwood hedge, you could use the Bushel and Berry jelly bean because you could keep it that small. It stays low and stays small. And you could go in and eat blueberries. You can decide whether you want to wash them enough depending on what you sprayed with them. But I digress. I think it's a 2025 trend is called foraging. Now, I talked to somebody, it's in Danielle's family about how, oh yeah, we went in the woods and like Johnny was so good. We ate all kinds of berries and stuff. I wouldn't go with Johnny. I am not going to guess, oh, look, I just ate a bunch of poison ivy berries, But if you do it in your own home, there's so many different things you could use. Like bushel and berry is this line of plants that I was talking about, that where it's not only blueberries, but it's raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, and other plants that are delicious to eat, compact to grow, and they're perfect. It's a great way of, if you don't have a garden or don't have enough room for a garden, that you can have a little landscape and have some of these plants in it. And kids love it. I mean, kids think they're like explorers when they go and they find a blueberry plant and they can eat it, and you let them know that it's okay to eat. There's some flowers that are edible. I mean, every time we do a spot on daylilies, I go and eat a daylily flower just to I don't know, gross people out, I guess. I don't know. Gooseberries are another thing. Elderberries, asparagus. Asparagus, asparagus doesn't grow necessarily like you think, like where you see it in the grocery store. It grows real ferny and it has a great texture, and that you can grow it for that ornamental part of it, but you can also grow it and harvest the actual asparagus. So there's other types of things like nasturtiums. The flowers are edible. So think about planting edimentals in your landscape, and that they're hardy or perennial, and they just do great in the landscape right next to a juniper or an azalea or something else, especially blueberries. Blueberries are just the same requirements for your acid-loving plants that are in your landscape. Blueberries will just thrive in that same condition. So think about that trend, the foraging trend, and also the edimentals. Think about that. If you've got questions, you know what to do. Call the hotline. That hotline number is 609-685-1880. Call us like Joel did, like Harold did, and like soon to hear Steve did, and we'll get back to you with an answer and talk to you about your situation and get it settled. And if you make it on the airwaves, you'll get a T-shirt. 1 T-shirt per year, please. Right, Steve? We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers T-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Here's the dirt on potting mixes. They're not all created equal. Espoma Organic Potting Mix gives roots the ideal balance of air and moisture. It contains a special blend of beneficial mycorrhiza to help grow stronger roots, bigger plants, and more bountiful blooms. Try Espoma Organic Potting Mix indoors and out for all your potted flowers, vegetables, and you'll see why it's the best. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you. Organic potting mix from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. Your next houseplant is waiting for you in Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse. Bloomers recognizes that houseplant choices are as important to your interior decorating as the fabric on your couch. The right plant, paired with the perfect container, can bring a dynamic change to your home. A houseplant brings life to your world and connects your home's interior to the greater outdoors. Even a small succulent placed on your coffee table has a way of connecting your living room to the Amazon rainforest. How about an air plant in your kitchen? Looking for an indoor flowering plant to add color to your plant palette? Bloomers has a large revolving assortment of flowering beauties. From aglaonemas to ZZ plants, Bloomers Greenhouse is stocked with your next favorite indoor plant. Bloomers carries a large selection of pottery and containers to match your home's decor and make any of your plants more beautiful. Bloomers experts can help you care for your plants and have the fertilizer, insecticides, leaf shine, and specialty soils you need to grow healthy and happy indoor plants. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center's greenhouse and make every room in your home a living room. Visit bloomers.com for more information. That's bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, if you're looking on YouTube, we have a cyclamen right here in front of us. I love cyclamen. It's one of my favorite plants, and it's a flowering plant. I don't know, can you get in there and see all those buds? There are miniature, tiny buds that are ready to stretch out and bloom. It doesn't get full of flowers, and Aaron was pointing that out. It's like, how long does it get? It's like, I don't know. Actually, this one is really dry right now. It needs some water. But there are tiny, tiny little buds that you can see that are starting, and that they just swell up and get big. Yeah, check us out on YouTube, and please subscribe and ring that bell. We'd appreciate that. But that way you can see, what we have going on in front of us. So, and again, this is a cyclamen, easy to take care of. When it goes dry, get it moist, get it watered, and let it go a little bit dry again. But it's a great plant, great indoor plant. So, Professor Steve called the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Thanks, Steve. He's a listener and a customer and a friend. And here's what he had to say.
Congratulations to Julio. I just heard the podcast down here in sunny Florida. And Julio is officially retired now, huh? Very good. He was the best guy. He was such a nice guy. He knew his plants, especially trees, but he helped the community. I used to give him clothing for the poor. He did everything. So congratulations to him, and good luck to Aaron. I know he'll be taking over. He's another good one. I don't know where you find these good guys, Len, but you find them. So that's all I want to call. Try to rub your nose in the weather. I know you're having hot, cold weather up there. I'm out here on the boat. But I'll see you in May. Take care. God bless.
He called just to rub it in.
You got some nerve, Professor Steve.
Yeah.
Here it is, 23 degrees.
Right? Right? This morning, it's like, wind chill's 10 degrees.
Yeah, right.
Man. I'm sitting on the boat.
Right? Yeah, man. Hey, well, Julio has a heart of gold, so we appreciate that.
He does.
Professor Steve, for sure.
He does. And I'm very fortunate to have a great staff and I guess the way that is clean living. I don't know. Julio and Aaron are great guys and a great asset to me, and I certainly miss Julio. But Judy took him away. Julio, yeah. Ooh, that's not right.
Sorry. Yeah. Wait a minute. It's a little guys club, locker room club talk right there, man.
Hey, Steve he plants his annuals down there and then fills up the truck or the car and brings them home and plants them in New Jersey in May when he leaves. Mm-hmm. It's like, why did he buy any plants? But he does. He buys lots of plants. But he gets them all to live. I don't know. He's got a greenhouse, too. I think he has his daughter water his greenhouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so very fortunate. Well, Steve, thanks for mentioning Julio. We miss Julio very much. And but he is well-deserved. He absolutely has earned his time off, but I'm going to call him in, say, April. Are you getting bored yet? I don't know.
Is that honeydew list growing?
Yeah, Judy will say, forget it, Julio. Get back here. Well, Julio, if you're listening, and I think you probably are, I hope you guys are doing great. So, Professor Steve, with bringing plants back, it almost goes back to where Joel in our first segment's trying to keep that celosia alive. So I told Joel he should get a greenhouse like Professor Steve. Maybe keep those plants in a greenhouse. That might work, because I think Steve's got geraniums that he keeps from year to year. It can be done. It can be done. Whether it's worth it, I'm not sure. So, all right, back to commercial break. We'll be back in the garden after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Here's the dirt on potting mixes. They're not all created equal. Espoma Organic Potting Mix gives roots the ideal balance of air and moisture. It contains a special blend of beneficial mycorrhiza to help grow stronger roots, bigger plants, and more bountiful blooms. Try Espoma Organic Potting Mix indoors and out for all your potted flowers, vegetables, and you'll see why it's the best. Visit espoma.com for a retailer near you. Organic potting mix from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. You know, some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Organic Potting Soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider, or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, another great show. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate the work that you do, making that camera work for YouTube. Anyway, trends. Trends are going to be interesting because there are some more trends over the next few weeks that we're going to talk about. You're going to really? That's a thing? But we appreciate you all listening out there. And when you go to your local garden center or you go to any events, if you're going to the flower shed, tell them that you listen to Bloomers in the Garden. And I tell you what, please call. If you've got questions, please call the hotline. That number is 609-685-1880. We want to hear your voice. So please give us a call. Sam, thank you. Great job today. We appreciate it. And we'll see you the same time right here. And we'll see you in the garden.